Cool FM presents Pop Culture. Hosted by Andres Clemente. Get ready to dive into entertainment news and amazing music. Ready, set, go.
Hello. Welcome to Pop Culture. I'm Andres Clemente, your host. And it is hump day. It is Wednesday. I was this morning speaking with Jerry D on The Breakfast Show with Jerry D right here on Cool FM. And now today I'm here. I will not have a guest, but I will have a great show, guys, because I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what I perceive to be a new trend. And I think it's going to explode in the next couple of years. And that is docuseries, meaning documentaries in like a TV show, different episodes, but no longer about true crime. I think that is way underway to being, well, it is a juggernaut. Everybody's producing it, but I think now Disney and Netflix are tapping in, and HBO Max they're all tapping in into the making of movies and TV and other things. We're talking about, for example, this summer with The Last Dance. That was sort of a docuseries of the making of the Bulls dynasty. We're talking about the TV show, The Movies That Made Us on Netflix that premiered, I think, earlier this year. That talks about how a specific 90s or 80s movie that is considered a classic was made. They do interviews with the cast members, the producers, the crew members, the directors, etc., the writers, and they go through how this got made, and you get the little ins and outs. In the middle of the year, around March, Disney was out of content. You could tell. So they were like, you know what, let's produce a series about the making of our original content. So they produced Disney Gallery. Disney Gallery started with The Mandalorian, meaning they did about 8 episodes, and they went through step by step of what they did to make The Mandalorian the show it was. And now, last week on Friday, also Disney Plus premiered a TV show called Into the Unknown, The Making of Frozen 2. And they also go through the whole process of how they made it. You have a brief conversation with animators, with directors, with songwriters, etc., and you go through the whole thing. So, I want to deep dive into that trend. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that, and as always, try to make it as enjoyable as possible. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I love pop culture.
That was Dan and Shay with 19 You and Me. I gotta be honest, I do love my emotional country music. There's something about it. There's something emotional about it that really connects, and I'm fascinated. Once in a while, I put those songs on with a little bit of bourbon, and I just jam to those, man. I do enjoy them. Anyways, let's get to the topic on hand. Okay, let's start when we talk about docuseries. Let's talk about the history a little bit. So, in the last couple of years, the entertainment world had noticed the fascination with real stories in the form of documentaries. This happened. We were like, documentaries before were a category at the Oscars that really nobody paid attention. They were like, oh, documentaries, whatever, move on. HBO came first into the scene, okay? Remember HBO? They came in with sports documentaries, then they had real life stories, but later ESPN produced 30 for 30. They came in with a bang, talking about a little bit about history of sports and really special events in sports. That started to pick up a little bit, but nobody saw coming when Netflix came into the game about 5 years ago, okay? Because they came into the game with true crime documentaries, and one specifically, it was How to Make a Murderer. You guys remember that? How to Make a Murderer? It created like a rip in the space-time continuum. Everybody in the world watched this. Okay? So, first came Netflix with that. A little later came HBO with The Jinx. And ESPN with OJ Made in America. OJ Made in America, by the way, because it played in a couple theaters, qualified for the Oscars, and actually won the Oscar for Best Documentary movie. Technically, it's an 8-hour documentary because it's 8 episodes, but yeah. These three things really created a staple. People were like, okay, you got to do good journalism, they got to be well produced, and they got to be a little bit of a thriller. They need to play like a thriller, and everybody started making them. Netflix, you guys, whoever out there is a Netflix subscriber knows they just keep on adding them. You're talking about in March, the Tiger King came up, and it was a huge success for Netflix. Like, probably one of the most watched shows on Netflix of all time was a true crime documentary. So yes, it became a staple. So now the market is completely flooded, okay, with true crime shows. So now they're going to start looking for other places. They're going to start looking for other content. And this is where I think the new trend is going to be. Okay. Because we love pop culture in the show out there, you guys listening. You guys love going to the movies. You guys love the Marvel things. You guys love Disney. You guys love DC. We love this. We love. And to get an extra glimpse into how they made the things we love, it's a no-brainer. So I really, truly believe we are going to see more and more of this. Like right now on YouTube, you can also check out, for example, Josh Gad, who is the voice of Olaf, is producing a YouTube little series that is for free, that it takes classic movies and reunites its cast through Zoom. It's happening right now. You can check it out. They have a show for Lord of the Rings, for Goonies, for Back to the Future, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because people want to know what it was like filming those classic movies. So I think this is going to be a huge trend. So stay tuned, because I want to focus on three specific ones. I want to focus on The Mandalorian, okay, Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. I want to focus in Into the Unknown, Frozen 2. And I want to focus on Netflix, the movies that made us. I think those three is going to be my main topic today. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about what I loved, what I liked, what I disliked, and my favorite moments from the shows. Here we go.
I need pop culture.
And we are back with Pop Culture. I'm Andres Clemente, your host, and we are talking docuseries, the making of. We talked a little about the history behind docuseries and how it became such a fad. Yes, people love it, and I am one of them. And I believe that the new trend will be the making of things we love. Movies, TV shows, sports, etc., etc. I think the making of pop culture is going to be the new trend. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm hoping this show is going to participate. Who knows? Maybe I'll produce a documentary about how this show got produced 20 years from now. You imagine that? I hope everybody here in Cool FM participates and signs release. I'm kidding. Here we go. Let's talk about the three ones I want to focus on. Let's start with The Mandalorian. Disney created this show called Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. Why they added the Disney Gallery is simple. They want to create a platform on Disney Plus where people can go and say, okay, Disney Gallery is a docuseries about the making of. They started with The Mandalorian, but maybe they will dive deeper into other shows from them and just call them Disney Gallery, semicolon, the name of the show. So it's pretty smart. It is like creating a brand for themselves, because they need that. Disney is widely unknown around the world. Anyway, The Mandalorian, obviously, they are all about... They divided it up in a way that they do in forum style, okay? They go deep look into the making of that Disney Plus hit, and they do it in the means of roundtables with its actors, directors, producers, crew members, and obviously its creator, Jon Favreau, okay? They are in a black room, sitting in a round table, and they're discussing and they're remembering how they made this. Obviously, it cuts to the making of. And they go bit by bit. First, they go the idea, then they go and talk a whole episode about the casting. They go a whole episode talking about the directors, and they go so on and so on. There's one episode they just talk about the music of the show, the score. And it's amazing because you see this guy with long hair, super hippie. Literally, when I say hippie, with hippie clothes, and he's just yeah, I'm the guy who made this amazing score. It's just remarkable to me. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about broad strokes. What I loved about it. One, when they talk about casting, it's fun to see. Oh, look at that. That's how they casted Pedro Pascal. That's how they casted this person, etc., etc. But the great part is more when they talk about the legacy of Lucasfilms and the legacy of for them and the challenge for them to make the show relevant for a new audience, but also pay homage to the old thing. Jon Favreau, the creator, as I mentioned, and Dave Filoni, who is considered to be the next George Lucas in Lucasfilms. As you know, George Lucas has stepped aside. Lucasfilms got bought by Disney. And Dave Filoni was hired originally to create, and he is the creator of Clone Wars, the cartoon. So he's only worked so far in cartoons now, or animation. Now he's going into live action with helping out and serving as executive producer for The Mandalorian. Anyways, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni participate in all the roundtables with the actors, with the creators, with the crew, with the directors, etc., etc. They're part of it. And it's amazing to watch them talk about how they made decisions. Because this is what I want to know. I know this is what people want to know. Like, why did they make the decision to have this color lightsaber at the end? Why they made the decision of casting this person? Why they make the decision of going with Baby Yoda? They go through a whole series, for example, where they talk about the design of Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda became the most popular thing in pop culture in 2020. Obviously, COVID aside. But who did not love Baby Yoda? They show all the sketches they had for the design, and it's amazing. It's amazing how they went for a little creepy, like, elf kind of thing into this beautiful thing that you want to have as a stuffed animal in your bed because it was so cute. And those little, like, that journey into something that doesn't work and something that does is remarkable. So they go through all that. They go through, for example, for people out there who don't know, Star Wars is not based on true stories. Star Wars is obviously from the imagination and space travel and galaxies, etc., unknown planets. And something that was very criticized about the trilogy from the 2000s, the episode 1, 2, and 3, was the heavy use of CGI, the heavy use of green screens, the heavy use of not physical things there. Very criticized, and I'm one of them. For the new trilogy, the one that just ended with The Rise of Skywalker, they tried to blend it a little bit more. They created a lot of the monsters by puppeteering. They went to real locations, etc., etc. This show took it a step further. They created a thing called the Volume. They name it the Volume, which is literally a room, a huge room that has LED screens all around in about 180 degrees and in the ceiling. And what they do is they use a video game, like first shooter video game technology, and they put the background of whatever they're using, the planet, space, or whatever. They bring in the set, they bring in the ships or everything they constructed and actors. They put them in there. And now the actors don't have a green screen behind them. They actually have the location they're supposed to be in. And with the video game technology, while the camera is moving, the video on the LED screens are rendering in real time the angle of the shot. I know I spoke a lot of technical jargon there, but trust me, it is remarkable. And you can see the actors talking about the fact that it makes the job so much easier for them because they no longer have to like imagine they're in space or imagine they're in a jungle-like planet or a desert-like planet. They don't have to do that anymore because they can actually see it. It's behind them. The whole ambiance of where they are at is behind them. And me, that I work both in movies, TV, radio, and LED screens because I work for Future Ad, free ads right now. I am the content director for Future Ad, and we work with LED screens. I was amazed of the potential. I was just amazed of how this volume thing worked. So you can hear it in my voice, the excitement, and I implore you to go watch that. dive a whole episode into this. I think it's going to be the new norm for heavy special effects film. I think that thing is the killer, the murderer, the Terminator of green screen technology. I really do.
I love pop culture.
And we are back with Pop Culture. I'm Andres Clemente, your host. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Remember, if you are catching the show right now, do not worry, because right now we are recording Pop Culture and we are putting it up in Grada Radio YouTube channel. So check them out. There's a whole archive of shows you can check out. We have top fives. We have conversations about quarantine, restaurants, industry, movies, etc., etc. So check out the Grada Radio YouTube channel for all these shows. Anyways, let's continue on with our docuseries, The Making of show right now, because we were talking about The Mandalorian and the making of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. It's just something, if you guys haven't seen it, I recommend for all Star Wars fans. You will highly appreciate it, I have to say. Let's continue on with the other one. Into the Unknown. Yes, Frozen 2. And out there, people might be like, oh, Frozen 2 is for kids. Yes, it is technically for kids, but that does not mean grown-ups and parents cannot enjoy it. I was one that highly enjoyed this film. If you ask my opinion, I think the first one was better, but it's still beautifully rendered. Like, the animation they can do today, specifically like ambiances and nature effects, is remarkable. Like the moment in the movie the water comes down and is attacking the castle, for everybody out there who's seen the movie knows, like, it looks beautiful. It looks real life. And in the show, Into the Unknown, there is a moment, I think Kristen Bell, the actress that plays the voice of Anna, is looking at this and she's like, is that animation? She even questions herself, like, is that animation? They're like, yep, that's animated, because it looks so real. Anyways, I wanted to talk about this show in particular because it gave me a lot of hope for Panama. And why do I say that? You're talking about Walt Disney World. You're talking about Disney animation, a staple. There's like, when you think of animation, the first person you go to, the first company you go to is Disney. And to look at the directors going through the creative process, I think they start this show, Into the Unknown, the making of, they start like a year before the world premiere. And to look at these directors go through it and discuss with animators, discuss with special effects people, discuss with the songwriters, Oscar-winning songwriters, EGOT-winning songwriters, is just remarkable, because I understood that doesn't matter the amount of money you have, the creative process, the teamwork creative process is the same. And that's why it gives me hope to Panama, because when I work in a team in Panama, in a creative team, I feel sometimes like, oh man, I feel we keep hitting roadblocks and I feel we can't move along. And seeing, again, these millionaires going through it as well. And there's a moment in the show where the directors of the movie are not happy with one of the songs, and they're having a teleconference with the songwriters, and you can see the songwriter is not taking the criticism well. She tries to save face, like, especially the fact she's on camera, but you can sense she is not very happy with the comments. And that showed me, like, yep, creative people, doesn't matter if you're winning $1 million or you're doing it for free, we're all the same. Sometimes it is hard to hear criticism of our content, of our material. It is. So that gave me a lot of hope for Panama, and made the show, I think, even better, because there should be some riffs, some fights, some disagreements during the creative process. If not, it's just too nice and cute. If you don't see those disagreements, those difference of opinions, it rings untrue. And Frozen 2, even though it's Disney, I was impressed that they showed those parts of the making of process. It's amazing. The other thing that really caught my attention is the amount of animators they have working on that movie. I think it's around 400 animators, because how it apparently works is if you work as an animator, you get assigned specific shots of the film. Like, your job is to take a specific moment of a song. And when I say specific moment of a song, it's not like, oh, you get the whole song. No. You get 2-3 seconds of this particular song. Like, you get the ending of the song, the ending shot. So it's your job to animate that part. And you go through it. You go through the whole storyboarding. You go through, they film themselves in like cameras to understand the movements of a character, et cetera, et cetera. And then they animate the 3 seconds. And they take weeks doing this. And then they show it to the directors. And the director's like, I don't like it. Yes, I like it, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how the process works. And they keep getting shots. Every time they finish one, they get another one. It's not like they have a list. Or normally they don't have a list. They keep getting, as productive you are, you keep getting shots. So there's a moment when one of the animators is telling, like, yeah, it's super weird, like, going to the movies with my boyfriend because we're watching the movie and I'm constantly, like, shoving him, like, those 3 seconds were mine. That little shot was mine. It's over. Like, it's remarkable. And the worst part is they keep doing screenings of this movie. The rule in Disney apparently is every 3 months they do a screening with all the, like, creative people in Disney. You're talking about the directors of Lion King, the directors of Moana. They all come in, they watch a preview of the film, and they give their notes to the directors, and they make changes from that. So from those screenings, they sometimes cut shots from the movie. And they go to the animators like, no, your shot that you took weeks to make, and you only have 2 of them, one of them is no longer in the movie. It's just amazing. It is really fascinating to watch. I was deeply, deeply engaged. So if you have Disney Plus, I recommend you watch those 2 shows, Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, and Frozen 2. You will learn so much, and you will learn to appreciate the content even more. That's my opinion on that. Anyways, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about the last show, The Movies That Made Us. It is on Netflix. It's a little more accessible for people, and it's still incredibly fun.
I need pop culture.
And we are back with Pop Culture. I'm Andres Clemente, your host, and we are talking docuseries, The Making of, meaning the documentary shows that show us how they make our favorite pop culture items, movies, TV, music, etc., etc. I think it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a trend. Trust me. Anyways, the last show I want to talk about with you guys is The Movies That Made Us. The Movies That Made Us is also divided in episodes, but each episode is a specific movie. They are focusing, or the first season is focusing on movies from the 80s and 90s, and normally really big hits or cult classics. Full disclosure, I have seen 2. I have not seen the whole thing. I saw Home Alone and Die Hard. 2 of my favorite movies. Very different topics, but I highly enjoyed both when I was a kid, and I still enjoy them now. A couple of tidbits. This one is a little more less boots on the ground, you might say. It's more like after the fact kind of things. Okay? Meaning, they talk to the people that were involved back then. They talk to them now, because obviously they were movies that were made 20 years ago. So it's not all there, and mostly the cast is not represented. It's mostly directors and crew members and producers and writers, etc. But it's fascinating when you see the process going as well. Like John Hughes, for example, Home Alone. John Hughes wrote the movie, and it went to a studio, but the studio never produced it. So they took the movie back and they gave it to another studio. And then it's fighting about how much Christmas is involved. And then it's fighting about the casting. For example, they were talking about the fact that they really wanted Joe Pesci, but the studio was a little afraid because Joe Pesci back then, or actually still, is known as the guy from the mob movies of Scorsese. You're talking about Goodfellas, Casino. And you know he's a volatile guy. He likes to cuss, etc., etc. And and they were mentioning the fact that they had to have many takes with him because he would cuss so much. So what they ended up doing, and if you go back and see Home Alone, when Joe Pesci is like muttering stuff, he's like, "Nya, nya, 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 nya," is because that's his mechanism to control the cussing. his muttering of nonsense words. And I found those little tidbits really interesting. For Die Hard, they go the same thing. For example, the famous shot of Hans Gruber falling off the building. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the Die Hard. But at the end, the bad guy dies. And how he dies is he falls off a building. So they show how they filmed that. And they talk about the fact that Alan Rickman, the Shakespearean trained actor, they grabbed him and they were like, we're going to let him go from a distance. And they had a whole inflatable underneath him so he would land safely. And because he was unknown at the time, he was all game. They didn't use a stunt double. It was literally Alan Rickman. And by the way, that would never happen today. That shot would never happen with the rules today and liability issues. That would never happen today. But what they did is the stunt guy had Alan Rickman grabbed, and they told him, we're going to let you go on 3. Get ready. So they put the camera on, they say action, and they let him go on 2. So the reaction you see on Hans Gruber, that face of utter scared, of utter fear, is Alan Rickman for real. He is surprised and scared, and it's a great moment in a movie. And these shows have those. You get to go behind the scenes of remarkable stuff and get an inside look of stuff you love. So I am really buying stock on this kind of docuseries, and I hope you guys too as well. Go out there, enjoy them. It is a great watch. And now that we don't have like new movies, a lot of new movies, it's a great way of going back to these, because after you finish watching the making of Die Hard, you're going to want to go and pop in Die Hard and watch Die Hard. And now that you know everything, how it's done, it makes it even more interesting. The same with Frozen, the same with The Mandalorian. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was fun. I love sometimes being by myself and having a conversation with you guys. If you have any recommendations of shows like this, like docuseries I might enjoy, let me know. You can follow me on Instagram at @AndresClemente_. There you will find my movie reviews, top 5s. I will be announcing future shows, topics, and stuff like that, and guest stars. So keep an eye on that Instagram. You can also write me on the WhatsApp. I have a WhatsApp right here in the studio. The number is 6301-2810, 6301-2810. And remember, if you showed up late and you're interested in the topic, go to the Grada YouTube channel, where we are putting on the shows. So if you did not have the time to catch it live, you can check it out right there. Also, remember, I started my podcast feed. It is called Pop Culture with Andres Clemente. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes Store, Twitter, Google Podcasts, the whole shebang. The podcast is right there with also past shows. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Remember, tomorrow I will not be on. It is the day I take care of my baby girl because my wife is not at home. But I will be back on Friday with great music and great pop culture content. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Andres Clemente signing off. Tune in to Pop Culture from Monday to Friday at noon. We'll be back.